your analytics practicum essentially works like a consulting assignment. We have a managing director whose job it is to lend out teams of consultants to this particular problem that the industry wants to solve. Now, when we look at these projects that we are solving for the industry, we ensure a wide variety of things. First, that the solution, the answer to the question lies in the data, because we know that most of you come with little to no experience, which means that it is not your domain knowledge, which hopefully you will learn as you work through the project, but it is your analytical knowledge, your knowledge of AI and ML algorithms that is going to make a very fundamental difference. For the practicum, we have teams, and each team is a consulting team that works for a particular firm. Now, what is the connection between what you have learned and how you are going to apply these to these problems? As I mentioned before, the goal of the practicum, and from your perspective, is that we take a business problem, convert it to a data problem, and then come up with a data solution. And that is really where all of the AI/ML algorithms come into play. What solution will you apply? Is this going to be an XGBoost? Or is it going to be a support vector machine? Or should we come up with a generative AI kind of method? So you will come up with a data solution and then convert that into an actual business solution. And one of the things that I always ask my students is that what is the right answer to a data question? And oftentimes, particularly if they've learned all these algorithms, they will say accuracy, precision, recall, etc. And I always tell them, none of those are true. The right answer to this question is ROI. What is the return on investment? What is the return on investing and creating these data-driven solutions which are fairly expensive, not only your time and your ability, but remember, all of these are cloud-based. So which means that you will have to apply all these components and come up with a solution. But if your solution doesn't make sense to that particular problem or to the industry, all that effort has gone waste. What is an example of that? Imagine if you were working with a client like, a retail client, like Macy's, for example. And if their goal is to send out promotional emails, and if you're developing an algorithm to predict which customer should be sent an email, and if you excessively focus on perhaps reducing the false positive, does that make sense? What is the marginal cost of sending an email? Close to zero. So your cost of sending an additional email or an email to a wrong person is not going to change the world for Macy's. So you will have to make choices about which of these metrics should I actually focus on so that the ROI of that particular project actually makes sense. So let's say you are working with a firm that creates multiple products. One of the things that might happen is that they're observing that these reviews of these products that they see are actually quite important. There is some hidden information within there, right? So now if you think about the types of questions that firms may come up with, they might find that, let's say if it's a shampoo manufacturing company, that, there are people who are interested in a small bottle, maybe 100 ml. There may be folks who are interested in half a liter bottle. And then you might be wondering, people are complaining, oh, the bottles are too small or the bottles are too big. And you can use those reviews to maybe now design a new product that is perhaps 250 ml. So in other words, there is hidden knowledge within all this information that is put out by the consumers that allows you to use natural language models and apply generative AI to come up actually with managerial recommendations to say, watch out for these sectors where it appears that there is a gap. And this could be true for somebody like Black & Decker, who might have a drill that is powerful, with a 45-watt drill, or they may have a 100-watt drill, and some other third firm is actually creating something that is a 60-watt drill. So which means that, once again, if you've learned all these methods, you can predict and you can understand sentiment analysis, which forms kind of the very basic understanding of reviews. But if you take it a step further, you may actually be able to identify and influence new product design. And new product design and new product development is a very important area for most of these firms. So how you will apply these techniques and methods and so on forms the core of your analytics practice.